Hey, what's up everybody? tootalltoby here, and in today's SolidWorks intermediate tutorial, we're going to take a look at tootalltoby.com. We're going to log in and we're going to head on over to the Practice Models app. And once we go into the Practice Models app, we can see here in our last video, we completed this Tier 1 challenge. Well, in this video, we're going to complete this Tier 4 challenge. So I'm going to click here to practice. And once I click in here, I can see that 998 people have completed this challenge. Let's see if we can become number 999 to complete this challenge. The challenge is called Bearing Bracket. It's a Tier 4 part. And some of the skills tested are symmetry, so maybe we'll do some mirroring. So I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom here. I'm gonna say click here to begin, and then I'm gonna click this button that says reveal drawing. And we see here we've got a field for mass, we've got the clock running, and it says, what is the mass of this part in XXX grams? So that is the question that we're gonna try to answer. Now to make this a little bit bigger, I'm gonna hold Control and just scroll wheel in a little bit here, make that print just a little bit bigger, a little bit easier to see. And let's just take a moment and come up with a game plan for this model. I know that the clock is running here, but I think it's really important whenever you're going from 2D to 3D to just kind of come up with a basic game plan. So the first thing that we're going to ask ourselves is, where should the origin be located for this model? And so I think that in the case of this model, we've got the center line symmetry going through here. So the origin is going to be somewhere along that center line symmetry. And I think that kind of looking at this front view here, it's safe to say that the lower corner of this front view is down here. There's a lot of dimensions coming from that location. So that's probably a good location for the origin. Now, the next question that you're going to ask yourself is, what is going to be my starting plane and what will my first sketch look like? A lot of times we call this starting plane, starting profile. And in the case of this model, I think there's two obvious choices. I think the first choice would be to create a sketch that looks something like this, and then extrude that sketch along the part. I think the second choice would be to create a sketch that looks like this, and then extrude that sketch up. So that would be a rectangle, which is 54 millimeters here by 118 millimeters here, 54 by 118. And the reason I wanted to mention those dimensions is because that's the route that I'm gonna go. I'm gonna create this kind of base shape first. Then after I create this base shape, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create this kind of tombstone shape sticking up here. After I create that tombstone shape, I'm gonna create this hole and then this counter bore. And then I'm going to take the tombstone and the hole and the counter bore, and I'm going to use a mirror command to mirror that across. Next, what I'm going to do is add my cut extrudes. So I'm going to add a cut extrude down here and a cut extrude here for the slot. And then the final features that I'm going to add are going to be the fillets for this part. Now, these fillets are a little bit tricky, and what makes them tricky is that we've got a fillet running up this sidewall here. So it like starts here and runs up this sidewall, but then it just stops, and this remaining edge here is sharp, and this edge here is sharp. And in most CAD programs, that's going to be a problem, or at least a challenge, because of what's called tangent propagation in the fillet command. But we'll talk about that once we get to that part of the challenge. We've already burned off 2 minutes and 30 seconds just talking about our game plan. So let's take this print and let's move it over to our second screen. Let's get into SolidWorks. I'm going to be using SolidWorks 2022 here, and I'm going to be using a fresh install. So everything is pretty much out of the box. Nothing has been customized, and I'll kind of talk through what I'm thinking as we go through this challenge. So here we go. We're going to begin a new part here. We can either use the novice or the advanced function for our templates. I'm going to use the advanced function. I'm going to double click on my part template here. Next, I'm going to go over to the tree and set my material. So in the title block, it says the material is 1060 aluminum alloy, and it says that the material has a density of 2,700 kilograms per cubic meter. So I'm going to go into my aluminums here. I'm going to choose 1060 and just confirm that the density is matching the title block, and it is. So I choose apply and close. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go up here to my options. Because I'm just working from the native template, I'm not sure what unit system I'm using. So let's go into options here. We'll go document properties, units, and the units here are MMGS. And that is good because this model is in millimeters. So I'm going to use MMGS here. Now I am going to go a little bit faster on this tutorial than I went on the last one. So just feel free to pause or maybe play it back at half speed or something like that if you're struggling to get caught up. I just don't want to take too long on this tutorial. So if that sounds good to you, hit the like button on this video and let me know down in the comments what you think about this tutorial. So now I'm going to go to the top plane. My starting plane is going to be the top plane, begin a sketch. And I'm going to start out by sketching a rectangle like so. And then I'm going to go up and choose Smart Dimension. And once I choose Smart Dimension, I'm going to choose to dimension this line here at 54 and this line here at 118. That's what we talked about in our game plan. Now, I just want to point out one shortcut here that I use all the time. So let me delete these dimensions. Let me delete this rectangle here. And that shortcut is the S key on your keyboard. So I press S on my keyboard and this menu shows up. And you can see in this menu, I can choose rectangle and then I can create a rectangle. And then I can press the S key again. And once I press the S key again, I can jump into Smart Dimension. And I can drop a dimension on here of 54 by 118. So another dimension here, 118. Now, I use the S key all the time. In fact, I have a video. I'll include a link to the video up there about how to customize the S key and really maximize your use of the S key. In today's video, I'm just going to leave it out of the box. But in the next video, I am going to have it customized per that video that I linked to up there. So be sure to watch that video. So I'm going to hit escape here. And now I'm going to add a sketch relationship between the origin and this line here. And the way we add sketch relationships in SolidWorks is we pick one entity like the origin, then we hold control, then we pick the second entity like this line here, then we let go of control, and then we choose the relationship up here in this box. So let me just show you that one more time. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to pick the first entity, hold control, pick the second entity, let go of control, and then I'm going to come up here and choose make midpoint. And now that sketch is entirely black, which means it is fully constrained, which means we are ready to turn that sketch into a feature. So I'm going to choose features, extruded boss base. And we can see over here that the height of the extrusion begins as a highlighted field. That's another little shortcut that I use. If I'm in a sketch and I choose extrude, I can immediately let go of my mouse and then I can type in the height of the extrusion, 16, enter, enter. And now I'm done with that command. So now I'm going to move on to my next command, which is going to be this tombstone shape. So I'm going to select this face, begin a sketch, orient my view, and then I'm going to use the line command, and I'm going to create a line that starts here at this corner, this kind of upper corner. I'm going to move my mouse up here. Actually, let me just hit escape here. I'm going to go into my view options, my options here, my view display options. And I'm going to turn off real view graphics and shadows in shaded mode. And I'm also going to go into my scene option here and make this plain white. I think that'll make it a little easier to see where I'm clicking. So I'm going to go now to the line command. So S key, line, and I'm going to choose this vertex right here to begin my line command. I'm going to just move my mouse up a little bit. I'm going to single click. And then what I'm going to do is I'm not going to click anything. I'm just going to move my mouse back over that end point. And this is a shortcut in SolidWorks where you can transition from a line to an arc. Now, depending on the direction you come off of this line, you're going to get different results here. So kind of, you can see you can get like tangent to the perpendicular or reverse tangent. So again, I'm not clicking anything. I'm just, the workflow is, let me hit escape here. The workflow is that I press the S key, I begin the line command, I pick this point here, I move my mouse up, I pick here and kind of in the background, pick again. So one left click, now a second left click. Now I'm not clicking anything. I come back and hold my mouse over this end point, and now I come up and around from that end point, and you can see that I'm in a tangent arc command. So I'm going to single click here to drop that tangent arc, come straight down like this, and then come across to close off that sketch. And now I've got a nice, neatly knit, closed sketch. That is what I want. So I'm going to press the S key and jump into the Smart Dimension command, create a dimension from here to here. Looks like that dimension is called out as 55. And then I'm going to create a dimension from this bottom line here up to the center of that arc, and that is going to be a dimension of 42. And once I've got that geometry in place, I can choose Features, Extrude. And we can see here that the depth of that extrusion is supposed to be 14 millimeters. So we'll make that 14, enter. And this is going to go the opposite direction. So I'm going to use this button here to flip the direction of that extrusion. So I click on this button here, and there we go. Hit the green check mark, and we are done with that feature. Now, to create the hole that's going through this thing, I could use the hole wizard tool, and I could do it as a counter bore. That's probably how I would do it normally, but just in case you're still beginning your SolidWorks journey, I just wanted to do this manually with 2 cut extrudes. So I'm going to pick this face here, begin a sketch, orient my view. I'm going to press the S key on my keyboard. I'm going to choose the circle command. I'm going to hold my mouse here over this edge, which is, we call that waking up the center point. So after I hold my mouse over that circular edge, I can move my mouse down here to the center of that edge, single click, move my mouse, single click again, and then I'm going to press the S key and go to Smart Dimension and create a dimension here of 30, just 30, enter, and then I'm going to choose the Features command, Extruded Cut, and this extruded cut is going to be through all. So this is what's called your end condition when you're working in an extrude command, a cut extrude or a boss extrude. Here we're looking at what's called the property manager, all the properties of this cut extrude. And one of the properties is what's called the end condition. Currently that's set to blind, which means that we type in the depth, but we're going to change that end condition to through all, and we're going to hit the green check mark. And there we go. There's a nice hole going through that entire model with a diameter of 30. And so now I'm going to pick this face, begin a new sketch, not edit sketch, but begin a new sketch, orient my view. I'm going to press the S key, go to the circle command, going to wake up the center point. So I just hold my mouse over that circular edge. Then I can lock in on that center point, come out here with a circle, and then I can press the S key, Smart Dimension, and put a dimension here on this circle. And that dimension is going to be a diameter of 3/8, enter. And now I'm going to go to Features, Extruded Cut, and this is set to through all. I want to change that back to blind. And once I change that back to blind, the depth is highlighted. So I'm just going to type in the depth here of 4, enter, enter. And that gives me that counterbore shape, the through hole, and then the larger diameter that's only going down to a certain depth of 4 millimeters. And so now I'm ready to mirror that geometry over to the other side. Now this is a time when it could be very useful to rename your features. Probably wouldn't want to do this in a speed run, but if you're modeling parts for your coworkers, you're going to want to rename your features. So this first feature here, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to press F2 on my keyboard. That takes me into rename, and then I'm going to call this one rectangular base, and then I'm going to click this feature here, the next feature, F2. I'm going to call this Tombstone Boss 1. And then I'm going to click on this feature here, Cut Extrude 1. I'm going to say F2. I'm going to call that Side Through Hole. And then I'm going to click on this feature down here, and I'm going to say F2, and I'll call that Side C-bore or Side Counter Bore. Now you can name these features whatever you want, but it's good to name your features. It helps you, it helps your coworkers, and it's going to definitely help us now when we go into the mirror command. So here on the Features toolbar, we're going to choose Mirror on the Features toolbar. And once we choose Mirror on the Features toolbar, we're going to say that our mirror face plane, I'm going to go in here to this flyout menu, our mirror face plane is going to be the front plane. Then I'm going to skip this second box here. You might not have this if you have an older version of SolidWorks. You don't have this option. But I'm going to skip down here to where it says Features to Mirror. And the features that I'm going to pick from the tree. And it's now very easy for me to select these features. Tombstone Boss 1, Side Through Hole, Side C-bore. Very easy to select them because of how they're named. And so I hit the green check mark, and look at that. We've created that nice mirror of those features. So now I'm ready to start adding in some more cut extrudes. Normally the order in which you create features is your boss extrudes, then your cut extrudes, then draft if you have it, and then your fillets. So we did our boss extrude first. Now we did our cut extrudes with these holes here for the C-bore. Let's do another couple of cut extrudes. So I'm going to pick this face here, begin a sketch, orient my view. Now I'm going to press the S key, begin the line command. I'm going to start here at the origin, and I'm going to come over here with a line. I'm going to come up at an angle with a line. I'm going to come back over here directly above the origin with a line, and then I'm going to bring my final line down here back to the origin. So there you see we've got a nice, neatly knit closed sketch. I'm going to hit escape here, and then I'm going to pick on this vertical line that's coming up from the origin, and I'm going to choose to convert that to construction geometry. Construction geometry means we're not going to use this line when we go to do our cut extrude. So now the sketch is open. It's got line, 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 but then this is not really a line here. Well, what we can do is we can select all 4 of those lines. I usually do this with a window. So I start out over here on the left, and I just drag in the background, and I drag over here to the right. That selects all 4 of those entities, and then I can come up here to the sketching toolbar, and I can choose Mirror Entities. mirror entities mirrors that right across. Now we've got that sketch for that keyway that we're cutting across the bottom of this part. So for these dimensions, what we're going to do is we're going to add the dimensions here for S key dimension. This is going to have a distance from the edge of the model to this point here. That distance is 16 millimeters. Then if we click on this line here across the bottom, we can see that that distance is 22. Now, when we go to drop that dimension, SolidWorks says, adding this dimension will make the sketch over-defined or unable to solve. Do you want to add it as a driven dimension instead? And I'm going to say, yes, make this dimension driven. And so what that means is if I change the 16 dimension, let's say I change that to 20, then that driven dimension automatically changes. So it's kind of like a reference dimension in a sketch. It's useful for keeping track of important dimensions, and it's useful for kind of double checking to make sure that we're matching the drawing. This is 16 and this is 22, and that's what we see on the drawing, so that is good. If you guys like the use of driven dimensions, hit the like button on this video. It always helps. And so now I'm going to create some final dimensions here. I've got a dimension that's going from this line down here to this angled line. And that dimension, I'm going to click in the background, is going to be 60, enter. And then from this lower line to this upper line, and that dimension is going to be 8 millimeters. And so now that sketch is all black or fully defined, and that means we can jump into the command Features, Extruded Cut. So we go to the command Features, Extruded Cut, and the end condition for this feature is not going to be blind. The end condition is going to be through all. That way that cut goes through the entire model. And so we hit the green check mark, and look at that. That looks great. And so now we need to add one more cut extrude, the slot from the top view. So select this face, begin a sketch, orient the view. And now we're going to go to the slot command, and we're going to create a slot here that goes from here to here. You can see I'm horizontal to the origin. So that center line is now locked down, but now I need to add my dimensions. And so for my dimensions, this is kind of a cool shortcut in SolidWorks. We need to create a dimension here that goes from this edge of the model to this arc, and that dimension needs to be 9 to the point of tangency. So the way we do this is we begin the Smart Dimension command. You can see we're in the command here. We pick on this edge here, and then we hold Shift on our keyboard. So see, if I just pick this arc here, the dimension goes to the center. That's not what we want. So I'm going to hit Escape. I'm going to choose the Smart Dimension command. I'm going to pick this line here. Then we're going to hold Shift on our keyboard. And then when we pick this arc, look at that, we get the dimension to tangency. And that's what we want. So we click in the background and we type in 9. And then we can hold Shift again, click this arc at the point of tangency or near the point of tangency, and then pick this arc over here near the point of tangency. And then we can let go of Shift. So I was holding Shift that whole time, click in the background, and then we can type in 99, and that's the dimension from tangency to tangency for that arc. And so now I just need to add that one final dimension from this line to this line, and that dimension is 16. And then if I wanted to use that driven dimension trick again, I could add a dimension from this line to this edge of the model, and I could say I want to make that dimension driven. And there we go. We can see that dimension is 19. You can also click on that dimension. And then if you look over here in the property manager for that dimension, there's a button down here, this button right here. It's way down here where it says dimension text in the properties of that dimension. And that button adds parentheses. So, if you wanted to kind of remind yourself that that's just a driven dimension, that's a good way to do it. You can just add parentheses around that dimension with this button over here. So now we've got that sketch fully defined. Let's go to the command Features, Extruded Cut. And our last cut had an end condition of through all. And so starting in SolidWorks 2022, SolidWorks remembers the end condition. I actually don't like this. I prefer the way it worked in the old days, but it's good to know kind of what the differences are and when they happened. And in 2021, this didn't happen, but in 2022, when you pick an end condition, that end condition kind of like sticks. And so now this cut extrude is also through all for the end condition. It does happen to work out this time, so we'll be happy about it working this time. So we say through all for the end condition. We hit the green check mark, and now we are on to the final phase of the model. And the final phase of the model is adding the fillets to this model. And so to add the fillets to this model, what we're going to do is we're going to choose the fillet command. So we choose fillet here. And then we're going to type in the radius of the fillet. We're going to type in a radius of 12. So 12, enter, and that fillet is going to be applied here. And you notice I don't see a preview. Well, when you first start using SolidWorks, you have to remember to turn on full preview for your fillets. So I'm going to come over here and choose full preview, and there we go. Now we're seeing that nice yellow preview of that fillet. And then I'm going to also come over here and I'm going to choose on this line here, and we can see that that line is also going to have a fillet. And so we see the preview is showing us both of those fillets. That looks pretty good. So we're going to hit the green check mark. Very nice. And now we are going to add the 4 fillets that are going around the outside corners. Now, if we look down on this drawing from the top, we can see here that the radius of these fillets is 6. Radius 6, 4 places. So this corner, this corner, this corner, and this corner. But if we look at this isometric view here, or really both of these isometric views, we can see that this fillet is kind of unique. It doesn't come up and wrap all the way around the model and kind of, run along the entire top edge. It just goes down these 4 side corners. It kind of like comes up here to this point and then just runs off and stops. It doesn't continue around this edge. Well, in SolidWorks, when we begin the fillet command, so we're back here in SolidWorks, we click the fillet command, and then we go to the radius here of 6, and then we choose this back edge here. The preview shows us that fillet is going up along this edge here, and then it's continuing to run tangent along this edge and along this edge because it's tangent, and along this edge because it's tangent, and along this edge because it's tangent. And that functionality is what's known as tangent propagation. This doesn't just happen in SolidWorks, it happens in other CAD systems too. But that functionality is what's known as tangent propagation. If you don't want the fillet to start on this edge and then automatically continue onto this next edge here because it is tangent, you can uncheck that option. So if we uncheck tangent propagation, then we see that fillet runs up and just stops, and it looks very similar to what we see in the drawing. Now, the other way that we could accomplish this, let me just pick all 4 of these fillets here, and then I'm going to press Control 5, which is a shortcut for top view. The other way that we could maybe accomplish this would be to create a sketch here and sketch a line which is tangent to these 2 edges, and then sketch a line here and a line here, and then do a cut extrude. We could cut that off straight down from the top, and that would get us the same results. Now, that certainly is an option, but I think you'll agree it's a lot better to learn what tangent propagation does and then to use that option. That way we don't have to sketch those 4 corners manually, and instead we can just use the fillet command. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use the fillet command. We're going to make sure that we're using tangent propagation. We're going to hit the green check mark, and there we go. There is our model. Maybe the final thing that we would do here would be to go through the tree and finish renaming these things. So this would be called mirror dash tombstone, or tombstone and holes. This would be called lower keyway. This would be called top slot, or upper slot. And then we would have this fillet here. This could be called fillet base to tombstone. Usually when I'm naming features, I don't include the radius value. I wouldn't put like R12 there, because if I go back into that feature and I change that radius to 16, the name of the feature isn't going to update. So usually I avoid naming my features based on size, and instead I name them based on location or functionality. So rename that there. Let's change that back to 12. So that's a right mouse button edit feature to change that. And then this final fillet here, this would be called fillet 4 corners, something like that. And then if this is for a customer, maybe you want to have it the same color as what they had. So the easiest way to change the color of your parts is just to click on this icon here, this little beach ball with the pencil. So we click on that icon, and then we go over here to the color swatch, and we can choose a different color, like this yellow color here. That's pretty close to what's on the drawing. And so now our final task is to measure the mass of this part. So I'm going to go in here to evaluate, and I'm going to choose mass properties from the evaluate tab. So evaluate mass properties. And then once I choose that, I can see that the mass of this part here is 309.24 grams. Let me grab that information. I'm going to do a right mouse button, copy, and then we're going to come back here to our challenge in the Practice Models app. I'm going to roll out of this here. I think last time I did not submit an incorrect answer. So just so you can see what that looks like, if I type in 699 and I press enter, it says incorrect. Your answer is incorrect. It is not within the specified tolerance. The clock is still running. So that answer was incorrect. Let's put in the correct answer now. So I'll close out of this. I'm going to put a Control V for paste, and then I'm going to press enter. And now this time we get that purple box. That's what we want. That tells us that we did it correctly. And so I'm going to choose submit here. And now we see that we have 999 people who have completed this model. So getting that purple box lets us know that we did complete it successfully. And now if we scroll down, we can see some additional metrics for this model. So it looks like the average time for this model was 15 minutes and 52 seconds. It looks like I was able to complete it in 24 minutes. So I'm a little bit slower than the average modeler. That's okay. I'll get better with time and with practice. And it looks like the fastest person to complete this model was Rambros in 1 minute and 15 seconds. That is insane. But Rambros is currently the 2024 world champion of 3D CAD speed modeling. So it does make sense that he is the fastest. He's a Fusion 360 user. So we can see here that anything under 4 minutes and 59 seconds would be in the top 5 percentile. So if you're able to get your time down under 5 minutes, that is awesome. Good on you. And again, we can see here kind of the average time, 15:52, and then my time laying a little bit on the other side of that bell curve. I'd rather be over here on this side, but hopefully with some practice, I will get there. So if you guys enjoyed that tutorial, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what you learned from this tutorial. And of course, be sure to check out tootalltoby.com/practice so you can challenge yourself.